Welcome back to DecentraLounge, brought to you by GlobalStake, your truly decentralized SOC 2 Type 2 certified institutional bare metal blockchain infrastructure provider. I am your host, Ryan Hazinski, head of protocol partnerships, along with my co-host, Wyatt Clancy, our VP of growth. Today, we're pleased to welcome Jerry Fragiskatos, a seasoned product and strategy leader who spent years navigating fast-moving ecosystems across blockchain and emerging tech. Jerry brings a unique blend of market perspective and execution experience as founder of Apex Fusion and CEO of HAL8. Joining him is Filip Blagojević, Director of Delivery at HAL8. Filip is a veteran engineer specializing in distributed systems and network architecture, and he's been instrumental in defining the technical roadmap and core infrastructure of the project. Together, they're building Apex Fusion, a blockchain ecosystem designed to unify the best of both worlds, UTXO-based networks and EVM smart contract models. Apex Fusion is architected as a tri-chain system with a foundational layer 1, high-speed UTXO layer 2, and an EVM-compatible layer 2 with a native bridge to move assets fluidly between them. The true goal, true interoperability without compromising scalability, cost efficiency, or security, empowering developers to build decentralized applications that tap into multiple paradigms without being locked into a single chain design. Today, we'll explore Jerry and Filip's paths into blockchain, why Apex Fusion believes the hybrid architecture is needed, and what makes their approach stand apart. Jerry, Filip, welcome to DecentraLounge. Why don't we just start off with how you got involved in this crazy world of Web3 and what brought you to the blockchain industry?
Sure, I could kick things off. And first off, I didn't think you guys were bare metal. As an old infrastructure guy, that's really cool. So if I can use bare metal is really, really cool with all the issues in cloud and so forth. I mean, I'm a traditional engineer MBA profile. I was an engineer, started in Montreal at McGill, did my MBA out of France, and was an enterprise for 25 years selling large-scale IT enterprise services. So I worked for a company called CSC, which is a big systems integrator, for about 15 years or so. Then I worked for Dell Technologies in the US. I moved to the US in 2014. I live in Dallas, and was just swimming in that world for most of my life. Traditional business, traditional tech. I had the opportunity to become chief commercial officer over at Cardano in 2019. I got the call from Charles Hoskinson from Cardano to come join his team. They were looking for, traditional tech people. Web3 is very innovative, looking for more, steady hand kind of person to come in and help them with expansion and commercial development and so forth. And at the time, I was very cautious because what I heard from the mainstream media about, crypto was that it's a scam, it's used for money laundering, it has no real use case, that kind of thing. And surprisingly, the push I got to go into it was for my client Fidelity. So I worked with Fidelity at Dell Technologies, and they were one of the earliest Bitcoin miners. And they told me, just jump in head first. You're not going to regret it. This is the future. Go for it. And I took that advice, and I haven't looked back ever since. Worked for Cardano for about 5 years, and around 4 years. And in 2023, got together with my co-founders and built Apex Fusion, which is currently live. And we've delivered the final piece in November of last year.
Yeah, thank you. On my side, I would say that I'm an automation engineer by trade. I used to build software and then commission factories, mostly tobacco factories, around the world straight after college. And then at some point, I got interested in these, blockchain, crypto type stuff. And my route was much more through the community and up. So I did all kinds of jobs like fund scouts, some BD, community work, a lot of community work in Cardano. Ended up in Genius Yield, being a technical project manager of a decentralized exchange running on Cardano, and then joining Apex Fusion first as a type of DevRel, and right now director of delivery. And yes, I was kind of driving this last piece of the puzzle with Vector, with this UTXO L2, and yes, happy to say that it's now live and delivered.
Well, congratulations on getting that final piece into place. Obviously, this has been a long time coming for you guys, building this really unique ecosystem, one piece at a time, so to speak. And so why don't we dive into what makes Apex Fusion very different? Jerry, you were very kind in providing a really great graphic that kind of shows the two models and how these things work together. So if you guys want to walk us through this so the viewers or listeners can get a better understanding of exactly how Apex Fusion works and what makes it unique.
Sure, I can kick this off. So coming, for the people who are not Web3 native, that come maybe from the Web2 world or understand a little bit about tech, this is very similar to previous generations of Web2. So, there was big technology stacks that were being used. In the case of, Web2, let's call it Windows and Apple, or Windows and Unix, for example. And what ended up happening after a while is there was a middleware layer that emerged because people wanted less and less to care about the technology and more to care about the use case and using the technology. So I think we're at a similar space in Web3. So basically there's two technology stacks that dominate. There's the UTXO stack that Bitcoin pioneered. And there's the EVM, I put EVM plus because it's really the account-based structures that dominate by Ethereum, but also is being used primarily for almost every other blockchain in our space. So what are the kind of primary characteristics of these two tech stacks? UTXO, in the simplest way, you can think of it as being more deterministic, more secure. It's like digital cash. It's a very blunt explanation or blunt analogy, but it's good enough for our purposes. And account-based systems are more like bank accounts. What does this mean in practice? It means that UTXO systems are more secure, but less programmable. And EVM and account-based systems are, I would argue, less secure, but far programmable. And there's about, our space is about 50-50, right? About $2 trillion, depending on where the market is locked up in UTXO-based change, primarily Bitcoin. Another $2 trillion in the EVM plus space here. But there's very little going on in between. There's a lot of DeFi going on in the EVM plus space, very little in the Bitcoin space. That's more of a store of value. And there's very little value transferring between these two ecosystems, which is surprising, except for things like wrap Bitcoin and this type of thing, but that's just bringing it over to one side. So what we said is let's build the middleware layer. Let's marry these two technologies, and then you get the best of both worlds. And we also took the principle of solving the trilemma in a unique way through the separation of layers, which is actually the initial vision of Cardano. Cardano came out and said the best way to solve the trilemma is to separate the layers. They actually never delivered on that. They went another path. They put it all in one layer. And we went back to first principles and separated the layers. So our first network that we launched is called Prime. That's our decentralized layer. And we launched that in February. And that's where we got in contact with you with GlobalStake. It's a proof of stake network. It uses Ouroboros. It's got native liquid staking, so you don't need liquid staking derivatives. It's got a host of security and liquid staking, all these kind of characteristics that make it advantageous versus other chains. But it's slow on purpose because it needs to be secure. It's slow and more expensive. So this is where you'd be moving your $1 billion around, right, at the Prime layer. But then you need execution layers. Now, the execution layers that have dominated have been EVM execution layers. Polygon as our technology. That's the one that's being used by all the big corporate entities in the previous cycle. And it's the latest Ethereum client. So Nexus is a very fast EVM-based chain. And Vector, we would consider our crown jewel, because what we've done is created a fast and cheap UTXO-based chain, which is for high assurance use cases because of its determinism. It also uses Haskell, which is a functional programming language that are used in high assurance use cases like ATM, satellites, and aerospace. And we just over the Canton network recently, which I know you guys are a staker of, and discovered that they are getting deals with large-scale institutions like DTCC, NASDAQ, and guess what? They use UTXO and functional-based programming. So when they went probably through their scoping exercise, they determined that those are the best technologies for high assurance, high financial value use cases, which is really a validation of our model. But what we've done is extended it to the EVM space. And through a series of 3 bridges, you can bridge across all ecosystems. There is our internal reactor router that bridges the tokens between the 3 chains. There is Skyline that's built by our partner Ethereum that bridges our chains to the UTXO world. And we partner with Layer 0 that bridges Nexus across all the other chains. And we chose Cardano as our first chain on the UTXO side. So our token Apex, AP03X, lives in the Cardano DeFi ecosystem as a stake token, as a DeFi token, DEX, lending, and so forth. And our first foray into the EVM world, we brought over our token to Base. and it's available on Aerodrome, QuickSwap, and a whole other place, a host of other places on the base ecosystem. And this is exactly the model. There's no vendor lock-in. You can start your dApps on a UTXO-based chain, on a VM-based chain. You can use our ecosystem just to bridge assets over or bridge them back, or you can build on our chain, and there's no vendor lock-in because you can use any technology you want and bridge outwards anytime that you want. And so I think one of the big issues for new startups is which chain to choose. And the issue is that once you choose a chain, you're kind of locked in to that ecosystem. We've broken that model. And basically, if you build on our chain, we'll help you go to other chains if that's what you need. Expand through your asset, expand through the dApp, any which way you like, because the technologies are compatible. So that's the idea. It's the middleware idea. Working at Dell Technologies, VMware is probably the best analogy to what we've done here. Use VMware. You don't care what the OS is. It just works. And that's what the concept is here.
Very cool. I guess I have a more technical question for you then, Filip, knowing that you're sort of the one that did a lot of the work. What was the most difficult challenge to putting together this system? Was it any one piece of this puzzle for the way that you guys built Apex Fusion that seemed to be the hardest hill to climb, if you will?
Only one. I mean, of course, as you go through any kind of, a bit more serious technical endeavor, you hit, obstacles on the way. I would say that with Vector, we did hit a bit of a blocker, a serious blocker, because what we initially tried to do is take the Cardano code and clone it, fork it, right? And we presumed that it has been made with thought, with expectation that it will be forked and cloned into new blockchains. And unfortunately, when we tried changing some very minuscule things like network ID, chain ID, something that is pretty standard and normal in the EVM side, it just didn't. It broke a lot of things downstream. And we really wanted to prioritize UX and builder UX, right? Builder experience. And if you want to prioritize that, you need to keep all the tools working, like working as expected on Cardano, right? So that was a pretty big hit, but we really bounced back from that and figured out a way how to make Cardano itself more forkable, how to improve it, how to add to the Cardano ecosystem. Other technical challenges, I would say, Reactor was, if not novel technology, a novel implementation of the technology. Reactor is a full bridge, very secure, heavily audited, heavily architected and spec'd out. And it was just a pleasure watching this become a real product, business product that works, and being there from the beginning when it was just an idea being thrown around. And I think both Prime and Vector are the first actual clones of Cardano, right? So there were actually the first two working networks that are actual clones of Cardano. So in that sense, I consider Polygon to be like a first real fork of Ethereum, and maybe I'm sure there were others before, but Polygon like as the first big one. So I hope that Prime Vector become something like that for Cardano. And I believe that copying code, cloning code, forking code proves the quality of the original code and the technology of the community that is there and the use case. So yeah, I would stop here.
Yeah, kind of building off that, and thank you very much for that detail. And I caveat this heavily by saying I am not the technical person on this phone call, but I would love to learn more about what sort of apps are being built on Apex Fusion and your vision for that going forward as well.
So I can start here. At this point, we're onboarding slowly to Vector, and target, like the normal target audience would be Cardano apps and Cardano builders, because this is the only other place where if you have a Cardano app, you can just redeploy it very cheaply and quickly. For us as the technical team, as the DevRel team, we really need that feedback into, how difficult it is. How can we make it easier for you? Should we make standards simpler, better, etc., etc.? But then, even with some initial partners, we're already discussing, and they are having business ideas where, how do we bridge it over to Nexus? How do we use Skyline to have multiple use cases? How do we connect this liquidity? How do we expand? How do we connect even Cardano, even outside ecosystems, through Apex Fusion to Nexus and through layer 0 to the rest of the world? So interoperability is a big focus. Of course, it takes time, it takes effort. People need to get used to it. But I think everybody's focusing on the experience. We are really doubling down on being there for all the builders, listening, and not just hearing, but listening, taking it into account, making it easy for them. And we see a difference there. I think that in this Web3 space, there is a lot of noise, and it's quite difficult sometimes to find meaningful conversations and even real responses to the problems that you have. And we're really trying to be that. We as HAL 8, and I know Foundation is doing their best as well, to be there for the builders initially. And then so that the builders with their apps can be there for their users.
Yeah, and if you could put up the picture again, I can just supplement it with 2 extra points. So there's 2 advantages to coming over to our platform. First of all, you're reusing an investment you've already made. And then you get speed and scalability through Vector, which is something that Cardano lacks. Like, the Cardano mainnet itself is relatively slow. And so Vector provides the speed and scalability. And then the other side of it is liquidity from the EVM side, specifically stablecoin liquidity. So if you look at layer 0 on the bottom right, there is Stargate, and we've already bridged over USDC to our network. So you get stablecoin liquidity. So you get access to scalability and stablecoin liquidity. And then ultimately you can bridge your token over to any chain that you want. So you can expand your token across any ecosystem. Adapt, at the end of the day, some of them will be religious and stay on one platform, but more and more and more you see all the major dApps going cross-chain. And this is just an enabler to that.
Now, I'm sure your commercial experience just from that world before, and I remember on one of our original calls, Jerry, you talked about the importance of liquidity. And so having that ability to just tap into, because that seems to be the holy grail, right? There's so much of that liquidity is trapped in the EVM landscape, and then bringing that over and having that seamless integration to where it can go to the UTXO side and vice versa, I think was a really, really interesting part of the design. Because to your point at the very beginning of the conversation where you said there's half the value in all of our crypto market effectively trapped on these UTXO chains. So what about on the reverse? Like, do you see it where long-term, thinking about where Apex Fusion is going in the coming years, I mean, is this something where you're trying to also unlock it from the other side, from bringing that UTXO sort of liquidity that is kind of trapped a little bit on those chains, and with Apex Fusion allowing it to be ported over in a more native manner to the EVM side of the house?
Sure. So I can answer that. So, I mean, if you look at the triangle, that's the engine, and liquidity is oil, right? So the engine doesn't run without the oil, and the liquidity is the oil. Now, I see the primary use case is UTXO-based assets going over to the EVM world and participating in DeFi there. I think that's the current use case, okay? Now, the DeFi ecosystem around Bitcoin is slowly growing, right? But it's not anywhere near the size of the DeFi ecosystem on the EVM side. As that grows, then yes, I see it going the other way. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist already today. It does. There is Coinbase BTC, there's Wrap BTC, there's Coinbase ADA, there's EP03 ADA. So there are already UTXO-based assets wrapped and available in the EVM world. The problem is that it always goes through a centralized intermediary. You have to go through Coinbase. You have to go through Binance. You have to go through some kind of centralized intermediary to get that asset over. What this does is allow you to do that in a decentralized way. I think that's the big, big secret sauce. And then also allows us to use the tech stack, because you can think of this as 2 products. There's the tech as a technology, and there's the asset as an asset, or the token, right? So having an Ethereum-based asset on a UTXO-based chain gives it different technological characteristics. It's the same asset, but it's living on a different blockchain that we argue has a better security model, right? So when you want to move 1 billion of it, you'd rather do it on a UTXO based chain than on a EVM based chain. So that's, I think, where it's going to go. But primarily, the beginning is UTXO based assets participating in DeFi. Then ultimately, we can marry all that in our chains and put the infrastructure there, so you don't have to go anywhere. They just exist in the middle, and you can hop back and forth whenever you want.
That makes a lot of sense. And again, I wish we had a little bit more time to go into the nitty gritty, because as the layman, it's been extremely interesting for me for sure. But this kind of is our time. So curious, how can people find you? Where are the socials? How do they follow along the journey and learn more as well?
Simple, www.apexfusion.org is the website, and you can find us on X at ApexFusion.
And do you guys still do a lot of spaces? Because I remember you were doing spaces a lot, and I got to partake in one with Tom.
Yeah, we do. We try to do as many as we can. Of course, we have a business to run, so we time. We have things to deliver, things to run. Whenever we have free time, this is the fun part of the job, in my view. I never, I get some free time to do a podcast. I love it. I love doing it. So thank you.
And Wyatt, if you want the nitty gritty, we have a very active Discord. We have about I think 1,000 members now there, which are very both technical. We have about 300 stake pool operators, one of which is GlobalStake, that are running Prime. So Jerry and I say we a lot, but meaning we as the community, as the wider, it's not just, a few of us. And you can go into any kind of depth there in the Discord, as can all the viewers and listeners of this. We welcome all of you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time. It's great to see you both again. We will be sure to link all of those socials, including the Discord, when you see this episode on YouTube, so you can find it there, as well as our other places when we post them on X for our clips and LinkedIn as well. So Jerry, Philip, thank you so much for taking the time and giving us a full breakdown of Apex Fusion. Very exciting stuff that you guys are building. We wish you all the best and success in the future. Looking forward to see what comes down the road. For those of you who are watching or listening today, this has been DecentraLounge. Thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll see you again on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
Sounds good. Thank you.